Good afternoon, everyone, and a very warm welcome. We've announced ScreenX, our annual property around OTT, video content, technology, and other discussions around it. With today's discussion, we kickstart our journey on ScreenX, and in the weeks to come, we will host many such thought provoking discussions. In the last few months, entertainment has taken a different leap, and need for fresh content, both on the domestic and international front, may likely to have more demand, be it global or local, whatever. The OTT platform has become the center of attraction in the entertainment space. More and more entertainment companies are venturing into the OTT space, looking at the spot and demand, as audiences today are looking for exciting content for entertainment. Today, we are all here to discuss on how to make Indian content travel around the world, how to create universal stories from India, what are the strategies required to create and distribute content to go global, what could be the game changer for Indian content. These and many other interesting questions will be discussed by our elite panel from the industry. Our topic is making India a global content powerhouse today. I don't want to take much of your time, and I will now hand over the mic to Pradeep Dwivedi, who will introduce the panelists and moderate the session. Along with Pradeep, we have industry stalwarts like Vinda, Kranti Gada, Anindo Banerjee, and Manish Puri. Pradeep Dwivedi has over 2 decades of experience in the media and entertainment sector in various leadership roles. He has been associated with large media houses and overseen their growth before joining Eros International PLC. He is an active participant in many media and associations, such as director of IA. Bindade, head of marketing Red Chilies Entertainment. She has close to 2 decades of experience, a high performance marketing professional who has led media and entertainment companies for driving long-term growth and profitability. Kranti Gada, Chief Operating Officer, Shimaru Entertainment Limited, a visionary and a thoroughbred professional. Kranti is the woman behind the scenes. Anindo Banerjee, Head of Originals, Hoichoi. Manish Puri, CEO and founder Rainbox Studios, a division of Rainshine Entertainment. Munish is a part of Rainshine Entertainment's leadership team, where he also leads Rainbox Studios, which creates non-fiction and fiction content with high production values across formats, web series, films, podcasts. I don't want to take much of your time, and I will now hand over the mic to Pradeep Dwivedi.
And good afternoon to all the viewers and participants in this webinar virtually. Given the virtual world that we live in, the discussions which normally used to be in conference halls is also moving on to these platforms. But it is engaging in a way because we can get diverse set of opinions and ideas from people around the world, both in terms of contributing to the session as well as gaining from it. I'm actually quite privileged to have a very high-powered panel of stalwarts who have been there, done it all, and really taken India to the global stage. So I hope that we will be able to learn a lot from them as we move forward today. I just wanted to set the context on the topic of making India a global content powerhouse, right? If you look at the legacy and history of India, the rich culture that we have had, we have always told stories. Our stories have been universal. Our stories have been one that have appealed to audiences across genres, across segments, across age groups. And that is the universality of our stories that has really had the wonderful appeal for over 1.4 billion Indians in India. As times have progressed, Indians have gone on all over the world, but they continue to be rooted to their culture, their history, and just their entertainment content in the kind of content that we make in. Today, we have one of the largest television markets in the world, one of the largest broadcasting markets in the world, a vibrant Bollywood and regional language cinema business, a fast-growing animation and VFX industry, and all of this is fueled largely by the demand of the 1.4 billion Indians that we spoke about. So essentially, we have all the success factors that can be there for making a brilliant, compelling content engine for the world. And yet, when you look at the numbers, the global entertainment and media content market is valued at about $2.3 trillion. When you compare that India has an aspiration of being a $5 trillion economy a couple of years from now, the fact is that the world M&E market itself is a very, very massive opportunity. Now, some of you would be wondering, what is the size of India in this context? At the most optimistic level, even if you put all participants of the value chain in this equation, you end up with about $33.5 billion worth of business being generated out of India. Or in other words, of the global business, India contributes less than 15%. considering that we are roughly 1/4 of the world's population, and the fact that we have such a creative mind, the opportunity to grow is literally 7x. And that is where, the concept of India as a content engine comes in handy. I really am looking forward to each of the panelists bringing in their perspective on how we can grow this market and build a compelling case for making sure that we do it not only aggressively but profitably. To open the discussion, I would actually like to invite suggestions and thoughts from Munish Puri. He has an excellent set of credentials, having made fantastic movies and taken them to the world stage, and obviously dealing with partners all over the world. Munish, could we have your thoughts on the subject, please?
Thanks so much, Pradeep. That was a great introduction. Thank you, Bajoya. Thank you, Adgully, and welcome. Welcome to all the viewers. Pradeep, just taking your point up, I think the time for creativity is here, and it's here to stay. So, India, at least as far as the global markets are concerned, has arrived in many ways. And we'll go through why I believe we've arrived. Not on the numbers as yet, because the numbers, you're absolutely right. In fact, recently Amazon on a single day added 40 billion to its market cap. So, so that just tells you that, that numbers will work eventually for us too. And I think we're going to get there. So let me first just begin by introducing Rainshine Entertainment, just for a couple of seconds, and then I'll get into the rest of it. So we at Rainshine Entertainment actually truly believe that the global markets are vying for, looking for Indian content. And we are actually partnering with content studios and creators to take content from India to the rest of the world. The company's been founded by Neeraj Bhargav, who's actually had 3 unicorns, which he's been part of. And we have Anurag Srivastava, who's also been with Neeraj and worked with him too for a fairly long time. They ran Zodius together. And they're the co-founders of Rainshine Entertainment. We are format and genre agnostic, and we are multilingual. We believe that we'd like to create engaging content, but with a sustainable business model. So that's when your numbers also come in. So where are we now, right? Well, the golden era, like we said, of creativity is here. Today, whether you look at OTT, both audio, audiovisual, social media, it's being consumed, vastly across the digital landscape. Just a quick stat, right? eMarketer believes that there are about 3 billion video viewers across the world, out of which 50% reside out of India. Reside out of Asia Pacific, sorry. As far as India is concerned, we've had both the major companies, which were here earlier on the OTT audiovisual side, which are both Netflix and Amazon, who've actually committed vast amounts of money and are committing as we speak. We've had Netflix, which has announced 17 originals just a couple of days ago, with there being a remark that they will invest about 3,000 crores behind the content business in India. As far as the global landscape is concerned, Guneet Monga arrived, on the world stage by bringing home an Oscar for period end of sentence. Chota Bheem has given us fabulous viewership of over 27 million through Netflix's Mighty Little Beam, which is one of its only originals out of India on the animation side. So when you look back, right, what has the journey been? We want, both Amazon and Netflix actually arrived into India about 2.5, 3 years ago. And, that was through Inside Edge and Sacred Games. But both these majors, like we said, have actually substantially increased. Why? That's because we have original content that's being created out of India. We have highly effective writers. We have prudent producers. We have world-class actors. You would, for example, take up, some of the content that's been created recently, Pradeep. So, for example, when you look at Patal Lok, right, when Sudeep, as the creator, or Anushka as the producer, were looking at Patal Lok on Amazon Prime, they were actually, while it was an Indian story at its heart, it sort of had the wherewithal to appeal to global audiences, and I'm quite sure it has. whether you look at Special Ops by Neeraj Pandey, or you look at Kafir, which was Bhavani Iyer's and Sonam Nair's, content that featured on Z5, all these pieces of content are going to have global appeal. There is no doubt about it. We believe at Rainshine that Sing may no longer be king and script is king. So if the content is really good and it has the robust engine of engaging, then there's no looking back, and then the numbers follow. So the content is good, it'll get global appeal, and hence the numbers will come. We also believe that, in the opening, we'd like to say, we believe that, authenticity and reality matters. And I'd love to see what the co-panelists say. So, from our end, we think India's time has come. We have some of the best characters that actually, have lived out of India and are currently living. Their stories can be told to the rest of the world. So, we're very excited, and we have about 10 group companies, like I said, and I'd be happy to get into any further details as we go on. Thanks, Pradeep.
That's very helpful, Manish. I think it's very exciting to know just the sheer diversity of the kind of range of products and genres that you're working on and the kind of global markets that is there. So clearly, I think enterprises such as yourselves and entrepreneurs such as yourselves are the ones leading the charge of taking Indian content global. And we hope that, this brief that you gave on the opportunity actually inspires a lot more content creators to look at the global markets itself. When I look at the content opportunity, clearly one of the factors that will drive taking Indian content global is the way the content is getting created, the whole creative process itself. At this stage, maybe I can request Vinda to come in and share her views of how does she think some of these content aggregation, the content creation process can be better handled to suit global saliencies and global markets. Vinda, would you like to share your views on the matter?
Thanks, Pradeep, and good afternoon, everyone. First of all, I would just like to talk about Red Chilies. What we make movies, of course, which everyone knows, for the theatrical audience. We've also, over the last couple of years, been making content for the digital audience for different digital platforms. So, one of the main thing that we realize is that we need a very robust ecosystem from where we can draw talent and a supply of talent which is coming in consistently. We have a population of 1.4 billion, so there can't be any dearth of good talent. But the thing is, we also need to show how people can make a robust career in this industry. And for that, we need to build this ecosystem where we are drawing in not just actors, but also writers from different part of the country, cinematographers, music engineers, young talent who they don't know that they can have a viable career here. Drawing them in. Only when we have the best of talent coming into this industry can we create the best content which will be appreciated globally. We have seen, Parasite, Money Heist, all these shows that people are open to consume regional content, and they are open to even see content with people from different ethnicity. So if a story is compelling and if the story is well told, there is already a market for it. And with the opening up of the OTT platforms, the content is now reaching out to a wide range of audience. Also, India has a strong USP, the kind of stories we bring in, and there are some genres particularly, like for instance, horror. Indian horror has not really been explored to that extent world over. And even if you look at Hollywood, it has gone into a very franchise, superhero kind of a model. So the kind of stories we've been telling, which are more based on relationships, family values, there is a space for, and these things are universal. So there is a space for people to understand and reach out and, know more about it.
I think that's a very interesting point that you bring out, Binda. So, for example, when I look at all these stories of family relationships and interpersonal equations, they're quite like when you look at the Mexican telenovelas, which are very popular in the US. I think there is an opportunity for us to create that content and take it forward. But I wanted to probe a little bit more on this whole angle of horror. When you think of horror, given the experience that I've had growing up, the whole Ramsay genre of horror perhaps is not too compelling for the global market. With all due respect to the work that they did, I'm sure they tried their best. And when you look at the horror that is getting consumed in world market today, so on one hand, you have these low cost but very compellingly driven Blumhouse kind of production content.
Right.
And then you have horror, which is movies like Us or Get Out, etc., which are taking a completely different view at how horror needs to be presented. How do you see the Indian sensibility of horror really going forward? And I mean, I know it's, and I don't want to put you on a spot, but are there any examples that you'd like to share of content that you believe can be good global content if produced with the high quality, that is desired for global markets?
Actually, good you brought up. In fact, just a couple of months back, we released this show called Betal, which was where we collaborated with Blumhouse. So we have this world of in horror, and when we're talking about horror in India, it's not just every part of India has a different kind of folklore and stories to talk about. Like Bulbul, which came on Netflix recently, draws
Right.
from a certain region in the country. Each part of every state, as you know, has their own folklores where we can draw from. Plus, if we are collaborating with people who've been making very world class horror content, I think we can marry in both, bring in the good, the learnings and the qualities from a collaborator like Blumhouse, and tell our stories in a compelling way. Similarly, like Ghoul or be it Bulbul and other platforms also has been experimenting. It's still early days. I think we are all learning in the whole process. I think we will have very rich stories to tell, and we should be open to partner with, wherever we can draw in and learn from.
I think that's a very valid point. I think collaborative process is important because while we may have a supply side ecosystem and we can prep the authors, etc., the fact is that the audience sensibilities need to be borne in mind because you're creating content that can then be marketed. And I mean, we have often in India or South Asia being accused of being too much focused of our on our own kinds. Even the
Right.
Indians who go to Canada, Australia, UK, US end up consuming a whole lot of Indian content. But here we are talking about taking Indian content global. So the demand side equation completely changes there. Maybe I can bring in and request Kranti at this stage. I think they've had a phenomenally successful brand, which, while, I think is quintessentially Indian, but has got phenomenal worldwide appeal. So what's the magic to it, Kranti? How do we really take it global?
Thanks, Pradeep, and thanks to the Adgully team for having me here. What I want to start by saying is that Shemaru stands for content which is unabashedly Indian. We are unapologetic about being Indian. So, what we believe when we say that if India wants to truly be a content, supplier to the world, there has to be enough and more demand for Indian content. We still feel that while the demand is opening up, it's still very, very niche and driven by very, literally two platforms only. So, once the demand opens up, and I think the Indian platforms need to focus and invest in creating global audiences, nurturing them, especially where there is probably cultural similarities with our culture, where our kind of content could be accepted. For example, South America, Indonesia, Malaysia, a lot of in the non-Indian diaspora. Indian diaspora is anyways watching Indian content, so they love India and they probably are more Indian than us in many ways. But if we want a global audience, we have to nurture them. We cannot always cater to global tastes only. We should be able to develop a demand and cultivate demand for our own stories in our own filmmaking style. So if you see in the last 50 years, Bollywood has probably produced amazing, amazing movies of all sizes, all genres. And how can we create a robust global demand for this? Still, if you see outside of the Indian diaspora, very few names are known. Probably Amitabh Bachchan, Rajnikant, Shah Rukh Khan, Amir Khan. Beyond that, the non-diaspora does not know what India is about or Indian content is about. So, focusing on that, in fact, a lot of them do borrow from India. There's one of the most popular soaps in Brazil is actually based in India. I think it's called Camilo de India, India, the True Love Story. It's the most successful show. Fully British, Brazilian actors, shot in Brazil, but based in India.
Oh, that's very
So why can't, yeah.
interesting.
So why can't we export our content to a country like that, or an Indonesia where Indian serials like Ye Hai Aashiki and all of these are literally the primetime grabbers, or even Nagin has done phenomenally well. So expanding that same reach to Bollywood. Bollywood is not yet successful in those same markets. So I think market development in terms of investing in the market, marketing the content, a lot of probably stars traveling to various geographies to popularize the demand, etc. A concerted effort and exposure to Indian content should and needs to happen. So if you say we are as big or bigger than Hollywood when it comes to making number of films as a country, but in terms of size, we are nowhere. So for me to become a true global content supplier, first we need to create demand. It cannot be a niche. It cannot be 17, pieces of content going out of India a year, which appeal to global demand. So I think, so for example, we've recently experimented with a native US AWOD platform called Zumo. We started with 30 English dubbed movies, so our regular movies like Jab We Met and etc. etc. We've dubbed into English and put it out there. It did very well. Now we put 50 more which are subtitled, and these are 100% being watched by white or non-Indian diaspora audiences. We've also recently done this thing where we're putting out 200 movies in Francophone Africa. So subtitled in French, will be consumed by Africans who speak French. So completely not related to India. So, I think right now, the filmmakers and the demand right now coming out is very, very catering to Europe and US kind of, this thing. But I think if we look beyond that for people who could actually share cultural similarities, we can find truly global audiences and better monetization for existing content as well.
Correct. Kranti, I think you again brought out some very interesting aspect on the demand front, and clearly I can see the confidence of having got that success in US market and some of the North African markets where French language demand is definitely there. I'm sensing two streams of possibilities here, and I wanted to take your opinion on that. One is clearly, look, we have some content. We sort of filter that content and create a subset of that content and say, okay, this is the content that can appeal to that audience. How do we make sure that from linguistically, subtitling wise, just a finish wise, duration wise, perhaps we cut it to an audience, receptibility in those markets and prime that content. But the larger question is the sustainability of such an approach in the longer run. And what I mean by that is, when will Indian producers, studios such as ourselves, yourselves, and a bunch of others, Red Chilies, put together money on the table for fresh original content that is intended for global audience? What will give us that confidence, and what is the change that needs to happen? Just one more factor I'd like to add here. When we talk of a movie, for us, movie investment going into 150, 200 crores is a big budget movie, right? That's a $30 million movie. A $30 million movie is not a movie in Hollywood standards. I mean, we are in the process of merging with a Hollywood studio where they say, okay, we do mid-budget movies, and their mid-budget starts at $70 to $100 million. I mean, so, the scales are completely off the chart. So how do we put the money where the intent is?
Pradeep, the confidence to put the money can only come on the back of demand. Today, the Amazon and Netflix is putting that money on the table because they have that demand, right? If they were not putting out that money on the table, would our producers without that kind of a demand backing would not have put that money? So what is really missing is demand generation. Once there is demand generation, there is money for everybody to make good content. So,
go on. So, maybe I'm taking a segue here, but I think this is something that will, roll back to Munish, and I'd like to come back to him again.
Yeah, so my concern today is that the charge of making Indian content popular is vested with Amazon and Netflix today. It's not broad-based enough. That is my issue.
And I agree. I think it's a valid point. Sorry, Munish, I just wanted to sort of preface that, and I want to hear your opinion on this. That, maybe there is an opportunity here for a fund to be created out of Indian Investment Fund, which is a commercial fund, not a CSR fund, which talks about actually collectively raising enough money to put money on the table for such so-called risky or not an assured results market. I would love to go to Anindya on some thoughts, but maybe if you can quickly give us your views on this, and then maybe I'll have an angle that I want Anindya to bring in very clearly. Munish?
So are you asking me? So I think, I think firstly, I think Kranti's made some commendable points, and so did Vinda. And the point being that I think, from our end, what we need to see is that, yes, it's Amazon and Netflix, and rightfully so, because they saw the market earlier. But you have a whole host of other companies coming in with the demand. So I think India's time, I keep saying, if yoga was popular in the past couple of decades, our content creators will be popular globally, going forward. I think there's going to be a lot of collaboration that takes place. Answering your question specifically about funds, yeah, clearly, I think, funds follow leadership teams within the sphere of, a fund, and, world-class practices, a very effective board. In fact, Pradeep, you're a game changer there. You've done some fabulous stuff yourself. So, you could lead those discussions there. But clearly, yes, there will be capital coming into the content business for sure. There will be, I think, a series of funds, if not one, which will attract capital. And I think it'll attract capital because investors will see that finally the leaf of Indian content is not one for just the US or for Europe. It's actually going to open multiple markets. And some of our actors are really, really, phenomenally well talented. Our technicians, we have some of the best, technicians out of the country. We have nothing to shy about. I agree with Kranti that we should be unabashed about the Indian sensibilities going to the rest of the world, because, quite honestly, most of the films that have been actually made would, finally go back to some content that was actually created out of India in the first place. I'm talking about some marquee content that's globally well known. So
that's a very valid point. Thanks for that. And I think, when we talk about India, we tend to, and especially for a lot of us in Bombay, we tend to have a view of Hindi or Bollywood centric view of the entertainment universe, which we cannot be faulted with, because I think we are kind of, it's our blinkers in our eyes on. But when I look at just the sheer diversity of India, the 10, 12 major languages that are spoken in vast regions, the amazing quality and quantity of content that is creating here, I think there is a much larger global opportunity for regional content, or what we call as regional, but it's actually like a European country itself, right? And here I'd actually like to bring in Anindo. I think Anindo obviously is from Hoi Choi. Hoi Choi has created an unparalleled success in a market and created a new paradigm that I think has very few parallels in the world. So first of all, Anindo, congratulations to you and your team on the phenomenal success. Tell us the trick to the magic, and then tell us how you can take Bangla content that you're building to worldwide and create a massive demand for it.
Thanks, Pradeep, and good afternoon, all. Thank you again for this. See, the idea is too many things to say, actually. So, how I see global is for a vernacular language platform. For me, global is anything outside Bengal, which is like anything outside Bengali. So this is global for me. Why I tell this? Because, okay, we are Indians, we kind of have a similar culture, yet it's very different. So when we dub our shows in Hindi, and they have a phenomenal viewership. So these people, most of these people, they don't know a bit of Bengali as a language, yet they watch them. So now that they are watching these, and probably somebody from Spain watching it, to me is the same, in the sense like they probably, okay, they are a little away in terms of culture, probably, but then in terms of language, for some people in a Marathi person not knowing Bengali at all, yet consuming Bengali content, and a Spanish person not knowing Bengali at all, yet and consuming, is for me is almost the same. And that's why we were trying to reach out to anybody beyond Bengal. Indian Bengali diaspora, obviously, that's a huge diaspora we have. We have around, say, 250 million Bengalis around the world, which is a larger population than US. So that is there, I know. If we cater to that only, it will be a huge success story, I know. But yet we want to move further down. Here I want to say one thing. It's not only, it's like a clap. It's not about what Kranti was saying, that the demand is very important. It's not about like one hand won't help. So you need two hands to clap. Similarly, how people see us from abroad is also very important, which I believe. Like if you go back to the 60s, like 69, 67, 1967, so there's this award show called Bodil Award Show, which is a Danish award show. And they had awarded Shatrughan Prize 2 gems, Aparajita and Pathir Panchali, as a best American film. So for them, so it was only Europe and America which existed. So anything which is not part of Europe is an American film. So now we are lucky with, again, with Parasite coming in and other people coming in, they are probably starting to see other areas too, Asia, India, probably, which is a good thing. And probably that is because of internet and more getting more globalized. So that way, this is the right time to connect. This is the right time to reach out. That's what I'm seeing, because now they are seeing us also. So this is what I believe. Like before that, like it was only a Durga Krishnan here and the Satyajit here and everything there kind of used to connect globally. So now we have a better platform, a bigger platform, like in the sense that we had good makers and good stuff then too. It was just that we are not lucky enough to connect it to the world. Now we are in a position to connect it to the world, and we have huge stuff, huge number of stories to tell. The thing which Vinda was telling, like every region has a story to tell, and every region is so different and so nice stories. Like our literature is so good. Indian literature is actually fantastic. So taking a page from the literature, if you just put it in the global scenario, and it might work wonders. Yes, there's a business angle to it. For that, I think Pradeep has to think about it. About it. That's not my job. What I'll try to do, I'll try to bring in like more content which connects globally yet remains local. So I would talk about a global scenario actually. So I'll tell local stories which connects globally. That is how
Amazing.
I see it.
Amazing. Anandu, you brought out a very interesting angle that I want to go a little bit deeper on. Growing up, for me, Bangla cinema was the benchmark, the gold standard of quality cinema, right? For a lot of us, and you're perhaps quite a few years younger to me, Satyajit Ray, Ritik Ghatak, Bimal Roy, these are the directors that have really put India on world stage, right?
Right.
Now you have all the advantages of technology. Now you have all the benefits of being able to reach global audiences rather quickly. I know that monetization is still an issue. What are we collectively as an industry, and I'm not putting you on the spot, what are we collectively as an industry doing to hone that talent, to make sure that we have the right set of directors, actors, singers, choreographers, musicians that are coming up? And it in a way relates back to what Vinda was pointing out, that while there is a supply that is increasing, we need to be able to curate it well, and we need to be able to hone it well for global demand. So, if not at an industry level, at least at your level, and you've had good successes, what are you doing different that is allowing you to create such compelling content? And when will we see the next wave of global successes coming out of Bangla language speaking markets?
See, in one way, we are living in difficult times. Why I'm telling you, when Satyajit Ray, Ritik Ghatak, and the others, a host of, yeah, Bharat was of course there, and this the host of Malayalam directors, and so they were all there. But then they lived in a times when say independence has happened. The India as a whole was trying to settle down. So there was a lot of experimentation happening. A lot of things were not kind of like it was not a rigid space. And then there's a Nakshal movement coming in. So a whole lot of political unrest was happening at those times. And all these good stuff, good literature, good movies, good cinema, like everything is obviously it's a reflection of the culture and the society you are in. After a point of time, the 90s and the 80s, just go back and see what kind of movies we made in the 90s. Like you were talking about the Hindi movies also, and the 80s. Like we all know what kind of movies we made. Why did we? Because probably it was at times where there was some problem here and there. Otherwise, like there was a less kind of unrest. It was kind of boring periods. Probably from now on, we might have again a set of good stuff coming on, because probably we are moving through that political kind of unrest, if you look at it that way. So probably the future is again we're looking at good stuff because people are writing about it, people are thinking about it, and I see a good future. Yeah, we are definitely tapping younger talent. Definitely, we are trying to see. We are giving, we are focusing on the younger talent. We are wanting to see how people think, what new things they can bring on the table. That is what we are really looking at. I know what the established guys can tell. They have been telling things, and they'll keep on telling the same thing, just about like changing things here and there. So our approach is to hire newer talent, like new writers, especially new writers, because probably the actual mind will actually come from there. So and then of course we have do have a set of good makers, and as a whole, as a platform, we have been successful here because we again have been able to tell stories touching political, sometimes a little bit of sex here and there, a little bit of fun here and there, kind of to make it a wholesome entertainment, like whoever, like whatever the kind of like viewers like, whatever kind of subject we're trying to cater to all. While saying so, we are being political also. So I think I mean, through these things, we will have opportunity to create better stuff. So let's see. We are in the process. We are in the transition process, I would say.
Oh, that's amazing. It actually reminds me, I was in a television panel a couple of weeks ago, and I had the privilege of having the thespian Kabir Bedi on the panel with me. He made a very
Okay.
interesting point. He said, look, the talent of Indian writers, authors writing stories is such an amazing one. And when people look at the COVID scenario and they look at the whole coronavirus period, they think that a lot of stories that will coming out of this troubled phase would be stories around corona. But he says that's not true. Actually, the demand side of television industry and some of the other industries has been such that people have been creating content, churning content at a very fast pace. They have not had time to apply breaks, sit back, think through, and come up with new ideas. In fact, his assertion was that coming out of corona, we will have such a wide range of interesting stories coming out and compelling content coming
Exactly.
out that it will do extremely well for the next 3 to 4 years. We will, not have a supply side challenge. So that brings me to the next question that I want everybody's opinion on as well. Here we are talking about a global opportunity, an opportunity that we all are reasonably confident is there for ours to take and for us to do the right things to get there. And we have obviously the overhang of the last 3 or 4 months of this coronavirus. So I can't, start taking audience questions without asking that. How do you see this whole coronavirus period? Is it a threat? Is it an opportunity? What disruption does it bring in and what opportunities does it bring in? And I'd love to have everybody's opinion. So maybe I can just mix around the sequence, but maybe let's start with Kranti on this one and then come back to some of the others. Kranti, how do you see this whole corona impact on the global content opportunity in your business as
Well,
well?
I don't want to say it that way, but I think it's an amazing opportunity to reset, everything that you were doing and look at it with a fresh pair of eyes. I think it's been a joyride for the entertainment industry in terms of consumption, with everybody locked up at home and watching. So please excuse me, I'm not being insensitive at all. I'm just talking from a very dispassionate industry perspective. But whether it's television, OTTs, everybody has seen a massive surge in demand, including gaming, etc. Yeah, the advertising part or the advertising drop in advertising has been for this particular quarter, Q1 of our financial year, roughly down by 60%. So that is definitely a very big challenge. But what I feel is that it has opened up a lot of consumption, a lot of experimentation has happened right from Doordarshan, having a runaway success with Ramayan. Nobody would have thought, I have personally, we have evaluated and projected, what can we do with that content, and nobody was confident on it. And suddenly they came in and, had a great run. That just shows, I'm sure everybody on the creative side has taken inspiration from that part of the Indian consumer who's willing to accept and watch all of that. Also, I feel that what it has done, while may not be great in revenues, a lot of adoption of digital platforms has happened. So, all of us have added a lot of new users, a lot of new bays who's come in, experimented, tested with us. We in particular also, in fact, did a lot abroad this time. So we tied up with the Indian consulate in various countries, including US, Spain, France, Canada, where they have actually gone and given our app free for 2 weeks on their behalf to the whole diaspora over there. And we've seen some great engagement and adoption over there, literally 10x of regular, consumption. So I think it's been a great time. Yes, it has been a challenge on the ways of working, on the finances, and nobody will deny that. But I think whether you take it as an opportunity or you take it as a threat, is completely in your hands. And for me in person, it's, I think, according to me, the greatest reset opportunity of all times. I think something that Anindo said, right? Like in the creative world, also, you need an inspiration. I feel it's been this, moment where, all bets were off, all, presumptions, assumptions, everything had gone for a toss. So, uh, I think the industry should come out stronger for sure.
Thanks. Vinda, what's your take on this entire corona impact on not just your business, but the way you see the creative industry and the content ecosystem?
Yeah, so I completely agree with Kranti what she said. This, in a way, this is kind of put break to all the things we were doing. Everyone has their own production pipeline going, and you are hurrying into different projects that's going on. So no one had foreseen a situation like this coming in. Of course, it impacted, some movies which were already on the shoot. There are plenty of problem around it. What it helped is, there were various projects in different stages which has come to a stop. It has helped us to actually sit back, look back at the script, develop it, refine it more, look at new stories, give more time to reading, even process the stories we've been working on, refine it better, which normally you don't get this break. And so it was forced upon us. In retrospect, it's good. It only will help make the content richer. Second part of it is when we, post this whole, when things start normalizing, when we start to go back to shoot, one thing that will change fundamentally is we'll have to be more ready when we start to go back to shoot, because there are so many do's and don'ts, financial implications also. So a lot of investment in time, energy, in pre-production, in keeping ourselves ready on how we can do things more prudently, things which would have normally taken, x number of days, if we can do it in half the days, keeping everything much ready. I think this habit is being forced upon us on the whole industry, which is going to help in the long run. It'll bring down the cost of projects after a time. It is setting up new processes for us to follow, which was lacking in the industry. It was more on, a lot of things would happen on the set during the shoot. Things would be figured out. Now we can't do it. Everything has to be planned to the T. So
That's
yeah,
true. It's
in
very insightful.
retrospect, it's going to help in the long run.
That's very insightful, and I can understand where you're coming from. We ourselves on when it comes to the production on the floor, shop floor, we know the issues, including restriction on people, the whole sanitization thing, including some weird suggestions that if an actor or a talent needs to have a family on the as part of the storyline, needs to get his or her own family. I mean, how much money
Right.
can you get with that? I
Really?
like to ask. Yeah,
I've not heard of this. It's too cool.
it's a funny one. Manish, what is your take? Corona.
Everybody in the family gets an alternate
Yeah,
career opportunity.
absolutely. Manish, what about you? How do you see Corona?
Yeah, so I think I'm going to just echo what all three of you said. I think it is a reset button for sure. I think just stepping back, every life is precious. So I completely back every production company that's taken the COVID situation seriously, and I salute them, because it's very difficult to put productions on hold. But I've always believed, and I've been very active on social media to say that every life is important, and why should we risk it? So that's the first thing. Secondly, there are some structural changes that are going to take place. So industries have structural permanent changes and temporary changes. Uh, uh, I think there's going to be a structural change in the entertainment business. You've had a lot of cinema content come directly onto the platforms. The platforms are going to see how well it's doing on a first day, first show basis globally. And there is going to be a fundamental change there. Within the media side, I think print's going to change. So that's the change there. As far as we at Rainshine and at Rainbox Studios are concerned, I think across the board, if I can speak for the other group companies, we have some great creators, whether it's Ruchir, Saad, or whoever within the team. The point is, I think productivity couldn't have been higher. So we at Rainbox have 7 IPs currently, and I'd say a good portion of those have come around, thanks to the leadership being an inspiration, which is both the founders. But we've aligned, and then we also have a group company called Lightstream, which does branded content. So
Right.
all in all, productivity has been high. I think it is a reset button, and I agree with with both Kranti as well as you, that I think there will come to be a time now going forward where certain things will have to change, and whether it's production budgets, which will have a COVID line item, and the networks will have to abide with that, hopefully, or as Vinda said, content creators are going to get a lot more conscious about what's being created, and all of that is going to happen, and it's going to stay for some time. But this too shall pass. I think it's a great, for me, as being a climate change sort of, I had tweeted some time back, about a couple of years ago, that we shouldn't go to the office more than 3 days a week.
And now it's all coming true.
And I just looked at the air pollution figures recently, which is 2 days ago, which was published. And, air pollution is down in India 45% across metro cities. So, so these are, nature is throwing its force behind doing certain things. Let's just, imbibe by what's being, done, and we'll be better human beings, and life will be better going forward for sure. So I'm optimistic.
Well, truly well said. And I think, given the clear blue skies that we see in Bombay, which I guess has been an advantage to us as well. Clearly, there are indications that there are lessons out of Corona for all of us in business and in personal lives, and I guess we will all adopt them. I want to actually take Anindo's view on the whole Corona impact as well, especially from the context of the market, the way they see it, and on both production supply side and demand side. And before I do that, I want to just remind the audiences and viewers pretty much across the world that are kind of watching this webinar. Our Q&A tab is open. You can send us your questions. We will dedicate about 10 minutes to take some of the questions from you, and I will credit the questions to you. So please come up with interesting ones that you think will shed light on the subject. Anindo, the Corona impact, how do you see it? Briefly, if you know.
Yes, like whatever Kranti, Vinda, and Munish were saying, like I kind of, again, I also echo those elements, because we have been doing those. Because we are back into production, we are just taking again baby steps into it. But then we have been kind of very try to keep it as safe and as sanitized as possible. Having said that, but then I really want to speak on something else, which is again about the content related to Corona. In a sense, while we were in this lockdown period, so we're trying to make some content, some stuff like from homes and all, but then probably we were trying to make it look better than what every people were doing, and kind of making films and putting up in Facebook. So we tried to make it a little different than that, a little more professional maybe, but then we tried to do some content. So our reaction to it, the kind of survey, a little bit of a survey which we did, people are not wanting to watch content which contains the terms corona, containment, lockdown. They don't want to watch that. I mean, probably is because they're so depressed in their lives. It can be of the situation. A huge people of people they have like lost their jobs, or they have salary cuts, and in the situation they are. Okay, in that situation also people do consume content, but then in such situation they want to consume content which are a little positive maybe, which are a little which will give them entertain them a little, not not being on the corona and the depressive zone. So that is a huge learning. So any stuff, any show which we are planning, which we are planning to go on a shoot from now on, definitely corona has never happened in this world.
True, I completely
agree. If it's not helping my show.
Very true. I have actually got a bunch of other questions, but I want to be respectful of the audience that has been patient with us and has sent out some very interesting questions, and some of them kind of map off. So I just want to take a few questions from them now, if everybody's okay with it. I have an interesting one here from Adya Thakur of Swastik Productions. The question here is, if we want to grab global markets like in VFX and animation, are we capable to compete talents like in Japanese talent of animation? I think they're moving on the manga, comics, etc. And it's amazing. How do we build that capability? Maybe I can pitch this to Vinda, because I think Red Chilli VFX is one of the leading VFX houses, although I'm sure all of us have certain business areas in that area. So Vinda, you want to take that on? How do we capture global markets in the VFX and animation side of the business?
So again, VFX is, of course, it's actually very human effort intensive. So the great thing is, we have huge bunch of very talented young VFX artists who are working with Red Chillies and other similar, VFX units for other production companies too. We have skilled people who can, work on VFX, and we actually already in different stages. I think all VFX studios are working within on international movies, Hollywood projects. Maybe not taking up the whole chunk of it, but taking up parts of breaking it up and taking up parts of the work. And of course, we are also building up the skills, training. A lot of training and skills have to be done for these people to, start taking up projects which are I mean, already we are doing for our movies, but if we want to be equal partners to Hollywood studios also, a lot of skill building is also needed. A lot of training work is also needed, which us as, we Red Chillies VFX, we are doing that. And I'm sure similarly everyone else is doing too.
Thanks. I think that's good insight, and I think that will be found useful by the questioner and the audience in general. Another very interesting question is, as creative leaders, and this is from Soumya Agrawal to all the panelists. As creative leaders, do you feel that the business and economic pressures often come in the way of achieving the creative excellence of freedom that India is capable of and deserves? Let me pitch that to Anindo, because I think he's squarely in that bracket and he feels that pressure every day, right? So do you think economic compulsions dumb down the quality of content that we put out?
It does. It does. It definitely does. But then I really cannot blame anybody for that, because again, one do need to make money. Like, you need to be creative, but then at the end of the day, the money should actually also come back, so that like we can create more stuff. So the idea is, see, the way we are operating at Virtual, we are. It's not that we are giving great budgets, but we are giving decent budgets so that we can make more money out of it, so that we can move on to giving great budgets. So that is the policy we are taking. So we are just like 2.5, 3 years down the line. So probably another 2, 3 years down the line, we probably able to give better budgets. So yes, but then that's always a conflict. Like, even if you're getting 100 crores, you'll always feel that I should have got like 150 crores. So that kind of it remains. So that's a conflict that will always remain, I guess.
Right. So there is another interesting question from a anonymous attendee, and I think the question is: does Indian content sensibility, like Naach Gana, literally dancing around the trees, which is a hallmark of at least our film entertainment traditionally, does it have to be moderated? So I think the question essentially refers to: do we have to cramp our style to be acceptable as global audience? In India, we kind of make everything Indian. You take Szechuan rice and we make it Indian style Szechuan rice. Or if you take risotto of Italy, we have an Indian style risotto, right? So we Indianize everything. Do we need to de-Indianize something to be acceptable to global audiences? Or are trademarks or hallmarks are our biggest strength going to the market? Kranti, how do you view this dilemma?
So I would say that we need to choose the audience that we're targeting. Yes, if we're targeting the European or the North American markets, for sure, our trademark style of storytelling, however good the actual story is, the style of storytelling is a little too loud for them. And I think that's where Binda and Munish are talking about actually creating content or customizing content to a level where it would be appealing in terms of being more realistic and more grounded, etc. But there are enough audiences who also appreciate the actual Indian content. So as I said, if our serials can be the #1 top rating shows, we know exactly what our serials contain. So, from Nagin to वो रिश्ता क्या कहलाता है to I don't know, all literally, especially I would say Viacom and Star Serials, etc., are doing really, really well in terms of TRPs in certain geographies and good money making geographies. So I feel those markets can be cultivated for our original content as it is. And I feel finally it's about cultivating the audience. Today they don't like it, but if this is something that you cultivate for them it's not going to happen overnight. A single film house or a single production house or a single platform can't do it. It has to be done at the industry level as a concerted, effort for maybe couple of years or a decade or more to be able to cultivate those tastes. So it's a double.
Pradeep, I have to come in though.
Yes, Manish, please go ahead.
Yes.
I have to come in. I was going to add to what Kranti said. I think content creators should create what they like to create, and
Yes.
viewers will consume what they really want to consume. I think the ability of an effective producer is to see the opportunity. Let's look at Aamir Khan, right? Dangal and Secret Superstar. Both these films, right? Let's take China, which is a touch me not right now. But the point being, if you look at the Chinese market, one film brought in, Dangal brought in 200 million, almost 193, and Secret Superstar brought in slightly over 100 million, which is about 117 million dollars. This is serious money in a market that did not even exist for the producers in the past. So I think they did what they had to, and then there was a consumption market that was waiting to actually consume that content. So I think I think collectively, yes, there could be an initiative where you truly create some content which is for global audiences. But I think creators will create and people will consume. Even look at Arya, what was just recently produced on Hotstar. Look at the way they've used the songs from Saregama. I mean, brilliantly done, so well done. And then imagine the amount of publicity and the marketing that the platform was able to derive purely from Spotify or whichever network that that actually had the music. So the point being that there are ways in which you can actually take content, make it out of the passion that you're looking to create, and then as Ram would have done, and then let the world consume it the way it sees fit.
Very amazingly well put. Yeah, go on, Vinda.
Yeah, just to add on to that, exactly what Munish was saying, we should make the content we want to make and make it to the best quality we can. I've worked very closely for at least with SRK, and I've seen, the kind of appeal he has even in other than the expected market, which is Middle East, Southeast Asia, which is expected even in Europe, like especially a country like Germany, when his movie is dubbed in German and released there. Actually, this is non-diaspora people really warming up to the content and liking it for the content it is, and the kind of stories we've been telling. So I think the effort should be on creating world-class, the best to our ability
I actually, little bit I feel differently than that. I feel SRK is a prime example of a great movie marketer. I think more than an actor, he's the best movie marketing brain we have in India. Honestly, all compliments to him, okay, not to this thing. He has cultivated countries. He has cultivated Germany, Malaysia. Those people literally, if there is a lineup of good SRK movies, those countries see a boom of Bollywood, presence. But
Right.
it does not extend to the rest of Bollywood as easily. That's what I meant. And I also mean, I think it's a great example of how to cultivate a market. So India needs to cultivate markets.
Yeah, absolutely with you. It's about then we are actually looking at focusing more on the distribution, marketing, and even syndication, the kind of syndication models we are looking at, because there is these markets are opening up, and how we are partnering with different platforms there. So it's not about creating a different kind pipeline of content for the international content. We're not talking about diaspora completely, people who are not of Indian origin warming up to our content. I think they've already tasted it. We need to market it, make it available to them in a much better way. And that's where I think the industry can come together and focus on more than actually creating different content for them.
Well, I think some amazing insights that have come in, and it would be very difficult for me to even summarize or even attempt to summarize just the sheer quality of thoughts that have come in. Maybe I think it would be best, and I know that there are a bunch of other questions. I'll let Adgully team take note of all of those questions and perhaps cover that in some of their written articles on the website, etc. later. But to conclude this session, maybe I would like to hear from each one of you, maybe in 30 seconds or so. What is the one compelling strategy that you would advocate to making India a global content powerhouse? Just one top of the mind, most compelling strategy that you would recommend. And we can go round robin on that. Perhaps we can start with Kranti.
Broad-basing the demand by cultivating markets.
Fantastic. Anindou?
Telling local stories and reaching out globally.
Amazing. Vinda, what is your thought, or what is your one strategic recommendation?
We shouldn't shy away from the kind of content we make. We should just understand that basic human stories connect at emotional level with everyone.
Exactly.
We should, of course, effort a lot on, as Kranti was saying, has been emphasizing, that building demand for this content, building the markets. That's where we should focus on.
Okay, Manish.
Yes.
Yeah, so I've got 30 seconds. So I think I'll basically say that I think writers, I think we need to give them their dues. The time has come. They are the true creators, and we should back writers, as much as possible. So that's the first point.
Absolutely, absolutely agree.
That time has really come. Uh, the second aspect is that I think in addition to writers, I think we should also give due credit to companies that are actually nurturing talent. It's very easy to go to very well-established creators and create talent. Has time come where production companies consciously create new talent? And that's across writers, filmmakers, technicians, etc. And then people like Anjum Rajabali, who literally shook up the industry by creating the Screenwriters Association to give dues. Can we have more organization and more people like Anjum Rajabali who can actually be the true game changers? Because when my nephew asked me, like, should I pursue a career and what should the path be? I think that should come. He should be telling me, I want to pursue it. I don't need a path. I know exactly what I need to do. This is what I need to do. And I think again, Shahrukh has made some amazing steps. I think he's a phenomenal actor, but he's done various things there to nurture talent. And I think that is what is really required to kind of shake the industry and bring a new brightness that has not existed in the past.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Manish, Vinda, Kranti, and Anando. This has been an exciting learning opportunity for me. I've enjoyed every second of this session. I'd like to thank all of you for taking the time on a Saturday afternoon and investing for the larger audiences on this panel. I'd also like to thank at this stage the Adgully team led by Bijoya and in no small measure by Madhura and Varun and Ganpati in putting all of this together and providing us an opportunity to get these thoughts forward. I would say that Indian content story is just about starting, and we have all the resources, all the energy, all the passion, and all the investments backing this story. So onwards. Thank you, everybody. Have a wonderful afternoon and a nice weekend
Thanks,
ahead.
Pradeep, and thanks,
Thank you.
co-panelists. Really had a good time. Thanks, Bijoya.
Same here. Same here. Thank you. Thank you.
Same
And
here.
thanks to the
Everyone,
participants.
Everyone, thank you so
Thank you.
much.
Great learning.
Thank you.
And we'll keep
Thanks, Pradeep.
taking
Thank
from
you,
here.
Adgully. Thank you, all the co-panelists, each one. Thank you.
Thank you.